Well, I think what really speaks to me is the shared grief and the shared intensity of an experience where only those two people know what they've gone through. And it's sort of, if in the beginning there was a little bit of wariness or uncertainty about what the relationship was, they go through this life-changing event. And now it's about, well, what's the relationship going to be on the other side of it? And really their shared sense of how are they going to navigate the sort of the conflict in their homeland when they return. I love, and I think it's a very human and relatable thing that we are exploring grief in particular. And then when I think about it for the season, a lot of the characters are actually navigating grief in various ways. But in our particular storyline, this is about this bond and this trust, because now, Miriel is in a weakened place, and there are very few people that she can trust. I would arguably say Elendil at this point is maybe the only person she can trust. Season 2, you're really going to see how their relationship evolves and how they are really continuing to learn from one another what the other person kind of needs.
Yeah, and there's this undefinable quality which is around faith, I think, probably, that there's a shared mutual vision of a potential future for their country. And Tolkien talks about it a lot in the Lord of the Rings books. Everyone has a sense of what their fate might be or is, that they understand that there's a potential power greater than them guiding them or pushing them, or so that shared faith between them, it keeps it very they're very tied. And I think in season 1, when the leaves come off the tree, I think there's a clear moment that they understand that in the last episode 8 of season 1, that they're on a journey together, and it's going to be a hard and painful journey, but they're committed. And then there's this extra element, that has just developed between Cynthia and I and the writers with Miriel and Elendil. It's not necessarily written by Tolkien, but if you allow the other minds and hands to get in there's some sort of connection between them, which is beyond duty, beyond the love of country, but just a sense that they need each other, and then that bleeds into something potentially more emotional, which also becomes a problem for Elendil with his daughter in season 2, because there's a sort of a jealousy of the attention and the fact that she's made a poor decision as far as his daughter's concerned to go to war. But certainly, as you say, it is a rather beautiful thing that how they're mutually dependent on each other, and that's physically represented by Miriel's blindness and Elendil's learning of how to interpret events in political life, training him up for his future leadership. I think the most difficult thing for Elendil will probably be, is in fact, the tug of war between his head and his heart, and between his love of family and love of country. And it becomes an impossible decision for him to take, because his faith gets tied into it. And there will come a time in season 2 where he will have to choose between his faith and his own life, which is an impossible position to be in, of course, and none of us know how we'll react to that. And the added element there is that his daughter has been, because of her vulnerability, because of her own level of grief, has been persuaded over to the other side of the political argument in Numenor. And so he is torn between his love of country and his love of daughter. And these sort of incredibly difficult moral challenges are very Tolkienian, and I think JD and Patrick have planted that firmly in the relationships that Elendil has, particularly with Miriel, his great ally, but also on some level, on some personal level, his great problem because of his daughter's reaction to her.
Oh yeah, my husband's my secret weapon when it comes to all things Tolkien, and we do have our dedicated shelf at home, and he is very proud of me. And I think the blindness for me this season, obviously in the story it's this sort of allegorical, metaphorical blindness and a literal one as well. But the main concern for me, or the main sort of goal, was that I didn't want it to didn't want the condition to be something that diminished her, that weakened her. That might be the perception, in Numenor. But I was very aware that any leader has to be always thinking about their public-facing self, that they need to appear strong, they need to appear in command, appear in the lead. And so it was really about an acceptance of her blindness and learning to navigate the world just as a matter of fact, so that it wasn't about, having Miriel fumbling around because she doesn't know where she is. This is a land that she knows intimately and very well, and I wanted to always make sure that she was in control. But clearly there are forces outside of her control that ultimately are going to be her biggest challenge. But the blindness, to me, was never about a disability. It was always about just something that was and was accepted, and maybe even something she used to her benefit as a strength. It heightens her other senses and makes her more aware in some ways.